Okay, so this chapter is actually starting to answer the question that I've had for the past two chapters, and that is why is Goodwin and the Oasis group so gun-ho about taking down Poseidon Nero? Because from what we saw from him in his introduction chapter, he didn't seem like that bad of a guy. He actually seemed like a pretty decent dude. But as we can see slowly throughout the chapter, especially with the ending of the chapter, that might not actually be the case. Okay guys, so we actually got two chapters of Eden Zero this week, chapter 137 and 138. Now, if you were reading original fairy tale when that was still coming out, you know this is actually something that Hero did quite often, and sometimes when he did this, we would not get a chapter the following week. So as of right now, I don't know if we're going to be getting chapter 139 next week, or we're going to have to wait until the week after that to get it. But as far as I'm aware, as of right now, it is still on track to actually be coming out next week. We actually start the chapter off with my girl Xiao Mei, which I said before and I'll say it again. I love this character. Anytime we actually get to see more of her, I'm always down for it. In fact, I would honestly take an entire chapter devoted to her. If not, I would actually take it like a whole spin-off manga. Maybe 3 to 4 chapters devoted just to her and her wacky adventures. We had like 1,000 fairy tale spin-offs by the end of the series. Give me one Eden Zero spin-off focusing on Xiao Mei and I'll be happy. But anyway, she's basically just here to summarize the past 3 chapters to get us caught up to it. And then, once we actually start the chapter, we actually see some of Nero's soldiers gathering up some androids in the plaza and lining them up. And I actually thought they were going to shoot them right there, but I think they said they're actually waiting for Poseidon Nero's orders or the Ocean 6 to show up. I don't really know what they're planning on doing right then. But they start questioning the androids and saying, hey, listen, everyone on every other planet, every android on every other planet is panicking right now, basically trying to find a way to get out of our cosmos. But you guys are sitting here living pretty. What's going on with that? Why aren't you guys panicking like everyone else? And then this is when they actually get the answer by the Oasis group showing up and killing the lead soldier in the army that's currently there. And this chapter has actually reminded me, we've seen a lot of people die in Eden Zero, and this is a lot more than we've ever seen die in Fairy Tail, or if I can remember correctly from Rave Master, just from the anime. So Hero's really giving us a lot darker of a setting in the series. And you know, it was actually kind of interesting. As soon as Oasis showed up, not only were the robots cheering for them, but the humans were as well. And prior to that, when the military was actually questioning everyone, it made it seem like they were actually trying to protect the fact that the rebel army was actually on this planet. So it kind of makes you wonder why, if everything's so happy-go-lucky under Poseidon Nero's control in Al Cosmos as we thought it was, why are the people on this planet protecting a rebel army that's dedicated to taking them down? And then a good chunk of the rest of the chapter is literally just devoted to showing off the fruits of Shiki and the gang's training under Master Zenolith. And I'm really liking the fact that Hero actually took the time to give each character a good amount of space to, basically show off exactly how much more skilled they are with their Ether Gear abilities. Like for starters, there's actually a moment where some soldiers actually shoot at Shiki, and instead of just making the bullets heavy like he usually would, he actually uses the Ether Gear to basically just move the bullets out of the way to misdirect them away from him and actually hit a box behind him. And then we also got to see that Rebecca and Homero's fighting skills have actually leveled up a lot. And even Pino got an upgrade because we find out in this chapter that she can actually now target her EMP instead of it just being an area of effect ability. But I gotta say, the one that actually impressed me the most in this chapter was Wise, because we actually get to see him actually take an air conditioner that's stationary on the wall, send the remodeling that he does on it underground, and turn it into road spikes in front of them. Now, the reason why he created those road spikes was because there's actually some armored cars coming right towards him and Rebecca, and just as those spikes actually cause the car to flip over, Rebecca sees that the driver behind the car is actually a little kid, so she actually uses her ability to actually go and save the kid at the last minute. And then this is when we end up finding out, because the kid punches her in the face and runs away, that this kid is actually a child soldier. So again, this is actually starting to lead to the idea that Nero actually might not be as good a guy as we originally thought, because apparently he's okay with having children soldiers in his army, which universally is just not cool at all. But then after that, we actually get more hints to the idea that Poseidon Nero is actually not as good of a guy as we originally thought, and a little bit of a hint towards Laguna's backstory, because after Rebecca saves that kid, this is when Goodwin actually finally shows up riding a giant camel. I think the same one we saw back in chapter 135, which I'm not gonna lie, it was actually a really cool entrance, but at the same time it's like, dude, where were you this entire time? Why are you just now getting here? But anyway, he shows up and all the civilians are cheering for him, and this is actually when Laguna actually chimes into Shiki and tells him, hey listen, the reason why they're so happy to see him is because he represents their freedom, and pretty much everyone in the Al Cosmos has had their freedom taken away by Poseidon Nero, which again leads to the idea that Poseidon Nero might actually be a little bit more of a dictator than we thought he was, but also brings up the question from Shiki, does that include you? Did you actually have your Poseidon Nero take away your freedom as well? So again, hinting a little bit more towards Laguna's backstory finally, and then we cut over to the big guy himself, Poseidon Nero, and we see him meeting with Fabiano, who I think was either a current member of the Ocean 6 or a former member. But anyway, he's basically there pleading with Poseidon to basically put a stop to Short's plan of destroying all the robots in the Al Cosmos. And Poseidon's like, nah, I'm not going to do anything about it. And literally his only reason for it is because of the fact that he rolled a dice, and the dice told him to leave everything in the hands of Shura, and if he does that, that's basically going to ensure his victory. And he says in the chapter that he doesn't care if it costs him millions upon billions of lives. As long as he follows the dice and he can succeed in conquering the entire cosmos, then he does not care what the cost is. So pretty much right here, this is cementing the idea that we've been kind of getting hint towards since we got to Planet Sadara in chapter 135, and pretty much throughout the entirety of this chapter that we've seen a little bit sprinkled here and there throughout the chapter, that Poseidon Nero really is a bad guy. He really is not as good of a guy as we originally thought he was, and now we just have to find out exactly how evil and how much of a dick he actually is. Because the way I see it, it could really be one of two things. It could be that Poseidon Nero actually is a pretty decent guy at heart, but over the years he basically became a slave to these dice. Like, he's become so reliant on their outcomes and their predictions that he's willing to accept anything that comes with them. So if the dice say that he has to let 1,000,000 people die in order to succeed, he's pretty much so reliant on them that he's just going to accept that. Or it could just end up being at the end of the day that he's a dick. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for my review of Eden Zero, Chapter 137. My review for Chapter 138 should be out sometime Wednesday night, so look forward to that. And let me know in the comment section down below what you thought about this week's chapter. That's it for the video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.